In my book, The Direct Path to $1 million, Turn What You Already Have into a Fortune, I talk about how you can go about all your entrepreneurial initiatives from a state of flow, and how everything as a result of that happens effortlessly and naturally. And so I would like to explore with you today this mind map that I put together, which was inspired by a post on my school community. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. I titled the mind map, Entrepreneurship in Flow is a Spiritual Catalyst. So this is inspired by the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 248. Perform your duty with equipoise, equipoise. So one translation has it as equipoise, another translation has it as steadfast. I like equipoise. O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure, such equanimity is called yoga. So abandoning all attachment to success or failure, such equanimity is called yoga. So now I always mention that the entrepreneurial pathway or the journey in the entrepreneur's life is one that is a spiritual catalyst. And by that it is meant that if you look at the various areas of entrepreneurship, innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership, and also we look at the ways we go about bringing in business, the revenue generating side, prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, and ongoing business with existing clients, including optimization, automation, delegation, and elimination in part or in whole or in combination. Again, I explored this in my book, and we've been discussing it all throughout the videos on this channel in relation to the areas of innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. These could sound like a lot of things to do. This could be considered to be very stress or force-based if identified with particular conditioning in mind or attachment to particular conditioning in mind, which results then in the attachment to appearances or the judging by appearances. Now, equipoise is an interesting word. It comes from the Latin roots meaning equal weight. So in context to chapter 2, verse 48 in the Bhagavad Gita, the way I relate to it is balance of mind, or we can say fluidity of mind, or fluid mind. Staying steady whether things seemingly go your way or not, And by that it is meant, it is only the individual in mind. As I always say, it is only you that can think. So it is only you in mind that can suggest what the appearances seem to suggest. And so the individual in entrepreneurship might be looking at the various areas of entrepreneurship and may say things like, that sounds like a lot of work. I have to try to figure this out, and that's going to be stress and force-based. See, these things actually happen naturally. The optimization, the delegation, the elimination, or the automation happens naturally. I can assure you, I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years. And in 2017, I made flow a priority. Why I made flow a priority? For many reasons. One of which includes this, what is referred to here, perform your duty with equipoise. This performing your duty with equipoise happens naturally while in flow. So just by making flow a priority, there is no attachment, because abandoning all attachment for success or failure can sound like a force-based thing to do. Yet it happens naturally while in flow. See, there's a neurotransmitter that is released while you're in flow. It's called anandamide. It's actually named after the Sanskrit word ananda, which means happiness, bliss, joy, peace, delight. There are many different translations for the word, a lot of nuances. Yet we can call it the bliss molecule. So it's released while in flow, and it binds to CB1 and CB2 receptors in the brain. And the experience can be described as bliss, experiential bliss, happiness, joy, peace, delight. So in other words, the individual knows that they are completely fulfilled, that we can call joy for no reason, happiness for no reason, bliss for no reason, delight or peace for no reason. And why do I say no reason? Well, interestingly, Ananda mind is not just released while in flow state in relation to the various entrepreneurial initiatives or activities or tasks. It is also released while in a meditation, while you're sitting down and literally doing nothing physically except being as you are, not identifying with the thoughts, letting the emotions be, letting the body sensations be. The natural result of simply existing is the joy of simply existing, or the happiness of simply existing, or the peace of simply existing, or the bliss of simply existing. So just as you can experience the Anandamide release in a meditation, you can also experience it while in flow. And these things, which could sound on the surface like things to do, abandoning all attachment or detaching, abandoning all attachment to success or failure, or detaching from outcome, any kind of suggestions in mind that suggest it needs to be this way or that way. If it's this way, then I will succeed. If it's that way, then I will fail, etc. All those thoughts that generate resistance, emotional turmoil, emotional dysregulation, not being in flow, essentially, those kinds of thoughts disappear. They are no longer there in flow. And the experience can be described as equipoise. So now, I always say entrepreneurship is a spiritual catalyst because, as I wrote here in my school post, and this is inspired, as mentioned, from my school post, if you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. Entrepreneurship may trigger the mind, not you, the mind. Key distinction. You are prior to the mind. Entrepreneurship may trigger the mind, bringing awareness to beliefs of lack or limitation, reflected as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. No shame, no condemnation. You are prior to the mind and its conditioning, and thus you can dissolve these patterns in flow. Or another way of saying it is these patterns, or the conditioning, dissolves automatically in flow, which is why I have been teaching on my other channel, which I started in 2013, but I started talking about it more so in 2017 when I made flow a priority, is I mentioned just make flow a priority, or just be in flow. Because mind purification happens naturally in flow, just as it does like in a meditation. Now, in the context of the Bhagavad Gita, the manifestation of this conditioning in mind is attachment to outcome or success or failure, hence the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. And again, no shame, no condemnation. The individual may have formed this conditioning in mind, and just as you can form this conditioning in mind, you could release this conditioning in mind. And the way to release conditioning in mind is to remain in flow. Go about your entrepreneurial initiatives from a state of flow. And that is why I say entrepreneurship in flow is a spiritual catalyst. And again, spoken from personal experience and working with thousands of businesses to integrate flow more so where they experience these kinds of things. And they may not know the spiritual lingo, or they might not be able to quote the various scriptures of the world, but they get to have this experience because this experience is available for everyone. And just as entrepreneurship can be a spiritual catalyst, I snowboard, for example. Snowboarding, in a handful of months I'll be snowboarding, can be a spiritual catalyst as well, just by being in flow. So these conditions that generate the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response in relation to the various initiatives on the entrepreneurial journey, which includes the innovation, the sales, the marketing, the operations, the finance, the leadership, the prospecting, the lead generation, the client acquisition, the ongoing business with existing clients, and also the optimization, automation, delegation, elimination. Any kind of responses like that dissolve. And it doesn't mean that you're going to do these things. You can bring someone on, or the person shows up naturally, however you want to look at it, the same thing. the individual who can take on these initiatives shows up to play a role. As I always say, physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, and relationships naturally emerge to play a role. They all play a harmonious role. And so the entrepreneurial journey can be looked at as a play. It can only be experienced as stress, force, and frustration based on that conditioning in mind. So it's up to you. You can go about entrepreneurship in a stress, force-based way, or you can go about it in a flow-based way. And the way to experience flow-based entrepreneurship, flow-based anything, is to dissolve the conditioning. And the way to dissolve the conditioning is just make flow a priority. Go about each initiative from a state of flow. I recommend reading the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. So in flow, equanimity is manifested, and such equanimity is called yoga, as mentioned. Chapter 2, verse 48. Perform your duty with equipoise, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. So we can call this the yoga of entrepreneurship, if you would like. So as mentioned, anandamide, the bliss molecule, is released while in flow. It binds to CB1 and CB2 receptors in the brain, and the experience can be described as bliss, happiness, joy, peace, delight, flow. So everything, no matter what, in relation to what you do, and I do this morning till night, my morning routine, my work day, my end of day, everything can be done from a state of flow. Here we're focusing more on entrepreneurship. See, in relation to any task or project you perform, it can be optimized for flow. It can be automated, so you could use some technology to automate it so you could do the flow-based thing. You don't have to force yourself to do something you don't want to do. Or you can delegate it to someone or a firm or a team member, etc. Or it can be eliminated if it's not necessary. I run each initiative that I do on the entrepreneurial journey, and I wasn't doing this in the beginning. As mentioned, I built an IT business to success from 2009 to 13, and then I got into consulting, and I started my other YouTube channel. So I learned this along the way, and I really simplified this. Through my consulting practice. So as simple as I'm making it here, it is enormously powerful and effective. Otherwise, I would not put this in the video as a result of being a consultant in entrepreneurship and based on personal experience as well. I didn't just get involved with consulting based on conjecture. I got involved with consulting as a result of my IT business success, and then I further grew my consulting practice to success, my other YouTube channel to success, and many millions of dollars were generated, and were generated in a flow-based way by valuing what I'm talking about here, and you can do the same as well. You and I are no different. So each initiative can be optimized for flow, automated so you can do the flow-based thing, delegated so you do the flow-based thing, or eliminated for flow. It's up to you. You can do whatever you'd like. Flow is the litmus for me. You may find that there are particular activities that are easy flow access points, or we can say easy flow activities in your business. For me, it's making these videos, it's writing my posts in my school community, engaging with everyone, one-on-one sessions, creating content, doing events, to name a few. As a matter of fact, I was looking in my school community, and there's this section where it could see how long and how much you've been engaging in the day-to-day school group. And looking back, since I started the school community, I've been engaging in it every day, 7 days a week. Now, a person might think, Joseph, 7 days a week, that's a lot of work. Here's the thing about it. I only do what I love to do. I put together that school community because that is what I genuinely love to do. I make these videos because I genuinely love to do them. And I do them from a state of flow, and they're easy flow access points for me. It's easy for me to access the flow when I'm interacting with everyone in the school community. It's easy for me to access the flow while I'm making these videos. It's easy for me to access the flow while in snowboarding because everything else has been optimized, automated, delegated, or eliminated, so I could do the flow-based things, and you could do the same as well. And now, interestingly, the natural result of that is equipoise and not attached to success or failure. This is the thing about it. If the videos get a lot of views, great. If they don't get a lot of views, great. You see how nuanced this is. It didn't stop me. The fluctuations in the market, for example, in investing, the fluctuations of sales didn't stop me from actualizing my visions. It didn't stop me. This passage here is speaking the truth, because I, as the individual, am not the doer of the works. God does everything. Now, this is experienced literally in flow, where there is no I. As Bruce Lee had articulated, there is no opponent because the word I does not exist. So inner and outer are experienced as one. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual are experienced as one. The service provider and the recipient of the service are experienced as one. There is no other. You may have heard these statements before. This is actually experienced while in flow. It's not a special experience reserved for a few people. Anyone can access it in the flow. So, there are also activities that may, not on the surface, not provide easy access to the flow, and that's fine. You don't need to force yourself to do things you don't genuinely want to do. As a matter of fact, I look at it as an indication. I follow my heart and intuition, as Steve Jobs had mentioned in his commencement speech that I used to watch over and over again when I was building my IT business. He said, follow your heart and intuition, everything else is secondary. So these things that are secondary doesn't mean that I ignore them or pretend like they're not there. I optimize them, automate them, delegate them, or eliminate it. As mentioned many times, I do not neglect any area of entrepreneurship. I do not neglect the innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. I don't do that. There's no need to ignore those areas and pretend like they're not there. They all get taken care of. I focus on what I focus on, and the rest gets taken care of. So these activities can be optimized for flow, delegated to those who naturally find flow in them. And this is the thing. When I work with any individual, whether it be a team member, a vendor, a client, etc., 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 what I hand off to them, what I delegate to them, is flow-based for them. I don't force them to do anything they don't want to do. I don't get involved with stuff like that, because that's just going to generate stress and frustration in my organization, and I don't want to do that. Personally, I'm not a fan of that, because I've seen it happen many times. I did 10 years in corporate. Prior to having an IT business, I've been involved with many businesses, and I have personally delegated things to individuals in the earlier stages of entrepreneurship where there was a hunch that I knew that it wasn't something that they genuinely desired to do, yet I delegated it to them, and maybe they were fawning or something like that, people pleasing me, and just accepted to do it. But they did it for a little bit. They didn't really want to do it. And then next thing you know, they resisted it. And I found it was far easier to delegate it to someone who genuinely wants to do it. And the person may think, how can I find this person? Well, if you release attachment to success or failure, as articulated here, what happens is the people, the relationships, the physical assets, the digital assets, the intangible assets naturally, effortlessly emerge. They naturally emerge. And the way to go about releasing the attachments or detaching from the identification to outcome is to be in flow. That's why I keep it very simple. Be in flow. Make flow a priority. So again, this applies across the board in the 6 areas of entrepreneurship: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. Also applies to prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, and ongoing business with existing clients. So let's talk about 8 benefits that you get, to name a few, as a result of applying what we're talking about here. And we'll get into nuances as to how you can apply it. So this is in relation to any task, project, initiative. All I do is commit and see it to fruition or see it into completion. That's it. That's all I do. If I go back to the start of my entrepreneurial journey, 2009, there were tasks on my task list. I just completed the tasks. And then what's interesting is more deals started to show up, more opportunities started to show up, things got taken care of in ways that I have not known. That's it. And then rather than forcing or stressing myself to complete these tasks, which is a result of identification, the attachments or the conditioning in mind, I realized that flow is the way. See, it's up to me. I either do the thing that I intuitively know to do, or I procrastinate, or I avoid doing the thing that I intuitively know to do. And then when I do the thing that I intuitively know to do, I can do it from stress, frustration, or force-based conditioning, or I could do it effortlessly for flow. I have the choice. You have the choice as well. It's up to you. If you do it from a state of flow, there is no attachment. You are actually living the spiritual truth, and you'll actually find that that conditioning dissolves as well. So that's why I teach it and recommend it. Number 1, effortless action. Effortless action. People ask me, what should I do? What should I not do? What should I say? What should I not say? Well, I can assure you, what you say, what you don't say, what you do, what you don't do happens naturally, effortlessly in flow. That is what is meant by effortless action. In flow, you act without force. Why do you need to forcefully act? That might not be sustainable. For example, I go to the gym, I lift weights, I run, but that doesn't feel like stress or frustration. That is what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi calls where challenge meets skill. And lately on my other channel, and here I've been saying it as well, I call it the God spot, the G spot, the God spot, the sweet spot where challenge meets skill. So I don't run away from the challenge. I actually embrace the challenge, and then I access the flow. I trust you notice this as well. If something is challenging, I don't run away from it if it's related to my vision. Why would I run away from it? That would be a flight response, and I don't want to identify with that conditioning. I embrace the challenge, the conditioning dissolves, and then I flow. Number 2, clarity of mind. Flow brings you into the present moment. The chatter of what if or should I dissolves, as Bruce Lee had mentioned. There is no opponent because the word I does not exist. So those I thoughts of lack or limitation, which are I thoughts, dissolve. The mental chatter is not there in flow, and decisions naturally arise. So rather than forcing myself to make a decision, shaming and condemning myself for not making a decision, etc., I don't worry about any of those things because decisions arise naturally in flow. Number 3, being as you are. While in flow, your actions align with who you truly are. As mentioned, what you say, what you don't say, what you do, what you don't do happens naturally, effortlessly, spontaneously in flow, and any conditions in mind that distort reality dissolve. So this can play out as authentic expression, spontaneously manifesting as what you say in videos. I don't think about what to say in these videos, but then an idea emerges. I flesh out a mind map, and then I get in the conversation. And you and I know different. You could do the same as well. This is the thing about it. As I say these kinds of things, I trust you know that you and I are no different. You could do the same as well. We can only appear different through conditioning. As I always say, it's the conditioning in mind that generates the illusions of separation. And you can dissolve that conditioning in flow, just by being in flow. So authentic expression spontaneously manifests opportunities and people who resonate with you. As mentioned, the physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, and relationships spontaneously emerge. They resonate. I'm not trying to look for people. I'm not trying to look for physical assets. I'm not trying to look for digital assets. I'm not trying to look for intangible assets. As a matter of fact, you have enough intangible assets. That's why I titled the book, Turn What You Already Have into a Fortune. As a matter of fact, you have enough digital assets. Look at all we have with the internet. Those are all digital assets. Physical assets, even if the individual does not have physical money, capital, etc., that doesn't mean they're going to not make $1 million. I started off with the bare essentials. My family provided me food on the table, some shelter, but I didn't have money, spending money. I ended up getting a job when I was 15 years old, delivering flyers and warehouse jobs, etc., etc. So I started with very minimal resources as far as capital goes, and I was able to work with what I have and turn that into a fortune, which in the earlier stages, it was my interest in computers. Then I went into corporate IT. Then I built an IT business, turned that business results and knowledge from practical experience in business into consulting practice, YouTube channel, etc., etc., etc. And you and I know different. You could do the same as well. Value what we have right now. Everything that is given to you as something that can be transmuted into the next level, and that is true for intangible assets, reference experience, life experiences, etc., etc. Creative insight. So an individual might say, how do I remain creative in flow? How do I never run out of ideas in flow? Do I have enough creativity? Everyone does. It's proven in flow. In flow, unlimited, infinite creativity. In flow, the mind becomes quiet and creative ideas spontaneously surface from the heart of awareness. This leads to solutions for seeming problems that you wouldn't think of by force. So rather than trying to brainstorm, the brainstorm happening is natural or effortless. Or another way of saying it is brainstorming happens naturally. Creative ideas happens effortlessly, naturally. This is how we naturally are. See, everything we're talking about in this video, on this channel, and my other channel as well, I'm not trying to tell you to be someone that you're not. I'm just saying be as you are. Be as you are. And that's what I do. Be as I am. Everything happens effortlessly, naturally, spontaneously. And along the way, what happens is any kind of conditioning in mind, being in flow, dissolves effortlessly, naturally, because you don't identify with it. Consider mind, body, emotions, thoughts naturally harmonize to you. You are prior to those thoughts. Thus, you are the master of the thoughts, the mind, the emotion, and the body. And master does not mean forcefully try to control the thoughts, emotions, body, etc. It just is, as I say sometimes, truth just is, reality just is, the law just is. And again, this can sound very conceptual or very theoretical, and this might not make any sense to particular conditioning in mind, but it makes perfect sense while in flow. I had a few clients mention, Joseph, I watch your videos. While in flow, I understand exactly what you're saying. While not in flow, I'm trying to figure out what you're saying. I said, that's it. We're trying to figure out, we're trying to do this and that. While not in flow, while in flow, everything happens. Everything happens naturally, effortlessly. And as mentioned, you and I are no different. You can do the same as well. Number 7, joy in the journey. Joy of simply existing. Happiness of simply existing, bliss of simply existing, fulfillment of simply existing, experience with the tasks, projects, initiatives, etc. Flow is inherently fulfilling. Instead of waiting for a distant goal to feel happy, you enjoy the process itself, which paradoxically makes the goals manifest faster. Number 8, magnetic influence. This is an interesting one. I get a lot of messages of how to be more magnetic, how to be more attractive, etc. While in flow, people feel your flow. You can call it this way if you'd like. The flow is contagious, or it's magnetic, or it's attractive. Your presence is enough. Existence is enough. Being is enough. Thus, your presence alone, without the distortions that are generated by the conditioning in mind, no distortions, no mind. I may refer to this as no mind, or mushin noshin, mind without mind. I got that from Zen martial arts. There's a wonderful book called The Unfettered Mind, Writings from Zen Master to Sword Master by Taekwondo Soho. Great book. Mind without mind, the unfettered mind. Mind not fettered, no mind. Presence is enough. The real self shines forth. No mind in flow. The real self shines forth as all these things. It says in the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things shall be added unto you, will be added unto you, knowing that you are completely fulfilled. Radiance, naturally, which we can call that attractiveness or magnetism or charisma. So your presence appears magnetic, appears to open doors in business, relationships, and life without the need to convince anyone. Seems like telekinesis, but you know what? In a way, we can look at it like that. Everything just naturally rearranges in a way that is in perfect harmony. So again, going back to the beginning, chapter 2, verse 48 from the Bhagavad Gita, perform your duty with equipoise. One translation has it as steadfast. I like equipoise. Steadfast is referring to the same thing. O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure, such equanimity is called yoga. So that could sound like a force-based thing to do. Now it's time to abandon. Now it's time to detach. All of that happens naturally and effortlessly in flow. So if you have any questions, you could leave a comment below and we can explore in upcoming videos. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.